Hello everyone, and welcome back to Occult Perspectives. So, the last video was cut a little bit short, and that's alright. So if you haven't gone back and watched the last video that I posted, I recommend that you go ahead and do that first. And this video will be taking off right from where we left off in the last video. So we went over the Klepothic Middle Pillar ritual, and then we started to get into Ein, the no thing, the outermost veil on the Tree of Life. So some of the first things I wanted to go over, I showed you a visual depiction of how I envisioned the Ein to be. Now this is not a state that we can really, like as I was saying before, reach to in this physical state that we're in. It's really only something that we can contemplate, especially considering that all manifested reality, that which we can perceive and that which goes even beyond what we can perceive, only a fraction, a little sliver of the Ein has created all that. So just a little bit of potentiality, infinite potentiality, is really like the key words that I get when I think of the Ein. Let me go ahead and actually read you the whole section that I wrote in my book. I started to read it at the end of the last video. So here we go. I'll just read the whole thing again. And like I said, I'm going to go in and make corrections and add a little bit more detail to this. Ein. The first three layers of existence above the Tree of Life are collectively known as the Empyrean Heaven. This consists of the Ein, Ein Sof, and Ein Sof Or, the no thing, the limitless light, and the limitless all. I'm sorry, it's the no thing, the limitless all, and then the limitless light. The first layer, called Ein, is commonly understood as the no thing or void. This is slightly misleading. This is, quote, God, the creator, or primordial chaos, darkness, itself, which is totally immutable and unchangeable. It exists outside of the sphere of creation altogether as something which cannot be comprehended by any but the most holy and high adepts. And as we said before, this is for all people who walk all different kinds of paths. They're going to reach this ultimate source outside of source, so to speak, that all things come from. It's such a primordial thing, it's really hard to even explain. Even then, it can only be perceived as darkness because it is at a level of creation we can hardly conceive of. It is rather difficult, if not impossible, to imagine no thing, for there has always been some thing to us. Further principles of the Ein can be understood by reading The Secret Doctrine, and we've covered The Secret Doctrine in prior videos. This book takes you through the whole creation process as stated before, starting with Ein in the beginning, and works through all the various manifold manifestations which lead to our current incarnations and experience in this realm. There's so many different steps that take place in this, the primordial acts and the primordial womb of the universe. And it's really only can be explained through symbolism, because these experiences and these planes of existence, they really transcend, physical description of any kind. The whole creation process is stated before, starting with Ein in the beginning, and it works through the various manifold manifestations, which lead to our current incarnations and experiences in this realm. The Ein cannot be adequately described by human language, because as soon as an attribute such as a sacred name, letter, or form is given to it, it no longer represents undifferentiated substance. All things come from it, and it itself never changes. It is the immovable mover. The Ein represents the original state of consciousness in which there is no I at all. Some say this takes place in Hokmah, where the Father and Son become one. More on this later, which I'm going to explain later on in my book. This is from my book, so there's a lot of different things I cover in it. But I just wanted to read this small section. The Ein is pure potentiality. It is important to note that in quantum physics, they are discovering that void, quote, empty space, or, quote, negative potential matter. And remember that dark matter, makes up the highest percentage of matter in the universe. When you look at it on a pie graph, it's like 73% or something like that. Universal Mastery has a video on that. And then the other types of matter are very small in proportion to the amount of dark matter that there is out there. Let me go ahead and finish this sentence. it is important to note that in quantum physics, they are discovering that void, quote, empty space, or, quote, negative potential matter carries exponentially more energy than all of the manifested matter in the cosmos. So that's what I have written for the Ein. And I'm sure we'll go into the Ein Sof in later videos, but we're going to focus on the Ein for this video. I'd really like to work my way through the whole Tree of Life, going through each of the Sephiroth. After I go through the first 3 veils of existence, would also like to cover the paths as well, because that's something that I don't have as much information on is the 22 paths on the tree. I'm much more familiar with the Sephiroth themselves. If you want to learn more about the paths on the Tree of Life, I highly recommend this book. This A Garden of Pomegranates by Israel Regardie, that's going to take you through really how to path work through the whole entire Kabbalistic tree. And it's pretty much, I haven't really come across a book that explains, the front side of the Tree of Life, Universe A, Tree of Life, better than this book. If there is one out there that goes into it more in depth than that, please let me know. Okay. But as I was saying, dark matter makes up most of the cosmos, it seems to be. So when you're doing exercises such as the LBRP, you are actually removing all that dark matter energy, which could be used for potential transmutation and then transformation, for personal evolution, as Universal Mastery likes to put it. And that's a good use of it. You don't always want a clean slate all the time, because if you're just banishing all the time, you're not going to grow. And that's something that I've learned. And I want to further my studies. I want to not just be so narrow-minded. I'm going to go back to basics, kind of work my way through, and then see, which practices are actually most practical, for me and what I need to do, as well as aligning myself with my higher will, the higher self, your true self, holy guardian angel, however you want to think of that. And that in and of itself is a complicated topic we can get into later. So I put some page numbers in here. This is from Kabbalah, Qliphoth, and Goetic Magic. We're going to go back to this book because there are some sections that refer to either the Ein or the beginning of creation. That's what this passage is talking about right here, the beginning of creation. So I'm just going to read a few passages from that correlate to Ein. Gebura, as we know, is the punishing and destructive principle in the Tree of Life. It's on the black pillar, the pillar of severity. But paradoxically, it is also the prerequisite of creation, destruction, that is. When God creates heaven and earth, he divides what was previously fused. God separates the light from the darkness. Originally, everything was united and completely undifferentiated. So that could be considered the Ein right there. And from this primordial state, the world was formed through separation. In other words, through the qualities of Gebura. The highest trinity does not correspond to creation in itself, but to its planning, and all is at this stage still united. And then he starts to go on about the other Sephiroth. So let's go ahead and move onwards. So bottom of page 61 now is the next note I put in there. The Kabbalists believe chiefly that creation was initiated by God turning outwards and allowing it to emanate out from him and down. In accordance with the emanation theories of the Neoplatonists, this theory was turned upside down by the famous Kabbalist Isaac Luria, who lived and worked in the Galilean city of Safed, S-A-F-E-D, during the 16th century. According to Luria, instead of creation beginning with God focusing his power towards one point, it began with God withdrawing himself away from an area. So removal, separation. God, or Ein Sof, creates a void in its own limitlessness. Here, God can create the world without, pantheistically, becoming one with it. So it becomes something outside of himself, outside of itself. I don't like using the word him or her when referring to the divine, because it's beyond that. Yet it encompasses all of that. Notwithstanding, God creates the world by entering down into his self, into itself, becoming increasingly demarcated. The first act of God is to create demarcation and emptiness, i.e., a primordial darkness. In this void, God can allow creation to take place and light to break through. Through creation, God ends up in what can be called a mystical exile within himself. That's an interesting way to look at it. It's kind of how one feels in the process of life sometimes, I feel like, even. This process in which God limits his own limitlessness to enable creation is called the Zimzum, which means concentration, but rather denotes withdrawal. And it goes on, in more detail there, but that really gives us a good idea of what I was wanting to capture there. Page 105 is interesting. I left a note, so let's go ahead and scroll down to 105. The utmost goal of magic is to influence one's existence in accordance with one's will. Magic is a practical philosophy of the will, in which the will of the magician is refined and developed. Unlike religion, in which man begs the higher forces to assist him, the magician is often reliant on his own abilities. For this reason, magic has often been in discord with religion. But what reason exists for turning towards the dark side? According to the Kabbalah, when analyzing the Kabbalah's view on metaphysical evil, we find that it is not necessarily connected with the mundane brutality that we normally associate with evil. The Kabbalistic metaphysical evil is, at the same time, both a destructive force and a force of creation to which man must turn if he wants an individual existence. Man is separated from God in the creation and from his mother at birth. Most religions offer to shepherd man back to a utopian original state. The dark path instead guides man into a second birth, in which knowledge is attained and he becomes like a god, just as the serpent in the Garden of Eden promised. According to the Kabbalistic view on evil, power and knowledge are the key words that illustrate what the dark side has to offer. What other pages do I have marked here? Page 111. And I think that goes all the way to... oh, no. We've read this part before in prior videos. According to the light and exoteric religion, man should seek his way back to the permissive state of childhood that reigned before man ate the fruits of knowledge. According to the dark and esoteric lore, man should instead seek to fulfill the search for knowledge and leave Eden to find wisdom in the unknown. The last and 11th step reaches out to absolute mystery and beyond the limits of the universe. In this process, through which the magician like Odin or the Egyptian alchemical god Khepra, and you'll notice the god Khepra in conjunction with the solar adorations, he's the one you, at midnight, at the midnight hour of the sun. We've gone over the solar adorations in a prior video, if you want to check that out. Like Odin or the Egyptian alchemical god Khepra sacrifices himself and enters the underworld, so can man be transformed and pass from being a creation to becoming a creator. The world was not created at some point in the past as claimed by the exoteric, monotheistic religions. The world is created in every moment. Most people are creations of the past, but through the magical initiation we can become creators of the future. Page 111. So now I'm going to read pages 136 through 141. And that'll give us a better understanding, particularly of the left-hand path aspects of the Ayin when we're studying the Ayin from a more Qlipothic point of view. And I'll also read a little bit from the Tree of Qliphoth book as well that go in conjunction with these notes. Oh gosh, I went too far. 136 to 141. I apologize if this is familiar to you, if I've read this. I may have read this part in prior videos already, but I think it's worth reading again. So this is actually the whole section on Thamael, which is the bottom or the top of the tree of death, however you want to look at it. It is the antipole to Kether. So let's read this, because this gives us an idea of some of the science behind the Ein and the No Thing and the beginnings of creation, and how you basically invert this process. It's a really occult information. When you've gone down to the Thamael and you've retrieved all the missing pieces of your soul, the fragments of your soul, instead of going back straight up to Kether, you can do this kind of like inversion that takes place, and then you create a new universe. We're going to get into that in just a moment. The goal of the left-hand path, according to the Qlipothic alchemical path, is to reach the outermost dark sphere, Thamael. Thamael Qlipa signifies the twin or the twin god, and is represented by the two devil princes, Satan and Moloch. They correspond to the utmost polarity and duality inherent in one principle. Like a Janus face, the two devil princes gaze in two opposite directions. One gazes outwards on that which has been, the creation that the magician has revolted against and is now emancipating himself from. The other is gazing in towards the future and the worlds that the magician, now as a god, is able to create. Notice that it uses the words, the other is gazing in towards the future, not out towards the future. I think that's really key right there. Satan is the opponent or the rebel against creation and those structures that bind together existence and limit the magician. Moloch means king or lord and is the one who creates and rules new worlds. These two principles of lord and rebel are united at Thamael. They are at each end of the black hole that opens when the magician reaches Thamael. So at this black hole that gets opened, on one end you have the lord, and on the other you have the rebel, Satan and Moloch. Satan destroys Universe A, in which the magician is a creation, and Moloch opens Universe B, in which the magician is a creator. These mysteries are considered so revolutionary and difficult to understand that one deals with them exclusively during higher degrees of initiation. Thamael's division is the reason why the number of the Qliphoth is 11, and its formula is AA, Adamus, Ater, the black diamond. Numerologically, the numbers 1 through 10, or 10 to 1, 10/1, represent the unity between man and God. The end and the beginning. The serpent biting its own tail symbolizes this. When the magician progresses according to the Kabbalistic levels, Kether, the highest principle, is reached at the final stage. At Kether, the 10 and 1 have been united and the circle has been closed. The adept of the light has reached his goal and become one with God. The dark adept also reaches this level, but has the choice at this stage to take one more crucial step. Through Thamael, another 11th level is opened, a black hole that becomes a gate to another universe. So it's like another portal. You went through the portal to reach Universe B, so this is a portal to a new universe. The dark adept frees himself completely from God and the old creation, and becomes a creator. Instead of becoming one with God, the magician becomes a god himself through the 11th level. This is the final goal and the essence of the left-hand path. The Western left-hand path and the Eastern Indian left-hand path, the Vamachara, that sounds right maybe, strive towards the same goal. The common yoga of the right-hand path strives, just like the light Western mysticism, to reach unity and melt together with God or the divine. The right-hand path in Tantra also has this goal. Julius Evola in the Yoga of Power explains the difference between the right-hand path and the left-hand path. There is a significant difference between the two tantric paths, that of the right hand and that of the left, which are both under the auspices or aegis of Shiva, it seems. In the former, the adept always experiences someone above him, even at the highest level of realization. In the latter, he becomes the ultimate sovereign, or world ruler, also referred to as Chakravartin. The left-hand path takes a further decisive step than the right-hand path. It represents the mysticism around the number 11 and the AA formula. The right-hand path leads to unity with God, while the left-hand path takes one step beyond God. The right-hand path leads to a conclusive and final eternal goal, while the goal of the left-hand path is to arrive at a new beginning. The two roads have been compared to the two ways that one can follow a river. It's all one river, though, at the end of the day. The right-hand path follows the river into the sea, while the left-hand path goes against the flow back to the spring. The left-hand path goes backwards and against the stream. When the magician reaches the spring, he has the possibility to alter the direction of the river and create a new river if he wishes to. That's a good analogy for all of this. Another important aspect of the left-hand path in both the west and the east is the importance of the dark goddess Lilith and Kali are the Black Mothers, and their womb is the actual source towards which the dark magician strives in order to be reborn as his own child and his own creator. The difference between the goals on the right-hand path and the left-hand path are the same in both the east and the west. In the west, the highest sphere of light is Kether, the crown, and here one reaches unity with God. In the east, the highest level of light is the crown chakra. Samsara. At this stage, the adept reaches Samadhi, which means unity with God and is a unity with the divine. I think it's very possible for mortals, especially those who practice ceremonial magic, to reach states of Samadhi for very brief amounts of time. It's total ecstasy and unity with Source. But you come crashing back down, because we're still vibrationally here. We have work to do here. This is, nothing happens for a reason. This is where we are at right now. This state numerologically corresponds to 10 when the adept reaches this samadhi they are talking about. This stage is symbolized by the diamond, the purest and hardest form of carbon, the foundation of all life. In his book 777, Aleister Crowley writes regarding Kether and the number 1, the diamond is white brilliance. It is pure carbon and the foundation of all living structure. The adept of the left-hand path also experiences this level, but has, through his magical work, the possibility to take another step, 1 beyond 10, i.e. 11, which corresponds to a conscious step in through the gate 0 that is beyond 1 beyond 1. Sounds like the Ein, the no thing. Also take into consideration the Fool card, tarot card. I would like to also do my own interpretation of the tarot cards at some point too. I haven't really worked with them as much in these past few years, but I do have a lot of experience just understanding the archetypes of what they are from things I've experienced in this life journey, and just through a study of them and hearing what other people have to say. Just combining all that and doing a video series on the tarot would be really cool. This step is the secret behind the division of Thamael and the two twin devils, Satan and Moloch. The step beyond Kether and Samsara is symbolized by the black diamond, Adamus Ater, A-T-E-R. Crowley describes the black diamond in 777 when reflecting on the number 0. It is invisible yet contains light and structure in itself. Sounds like the Ein again. The black diamond represents the ultimate freedom of the left-hand path by offering one step further than the right-hand path. Julius Evola describes how this thought exists in the tantric left-hand path. The creative and productive aspect of the cosmic process is signified by the right hand, by the color white, and by the two goddesses Uma and Gauri, in whom Shakti appears, she who is light and manifestation. Shakti appears as Prakashamika. See, this is part of the reason the Eastern stuff, it's a lot more difficult for me. Just all these, the terms are a lot more difficult than like the Tree of Life and Kabbalah terms, in my opinion. The second aspect, that of conversion and return, Exodus and Redditus, is signified by the left-hand path by the color black and by the dark destructive goddess Durga and Kali. Thus, according to the Mahakala Tantra, when the left and right hands are in equilibrium, we experience samsara, but when the left hand prevails, we find liberation. Interesting. When the adept of the left-hand path takes the step beyond samsara, he reaches a state beyond samadhi, which is called kavalya. The Indian adepts of the light strive towards samadhi, but the dark adepts seek kavalya. Kavalya is a state corresponding to the black diamond that the magician reaches at Thamael. Here the adept reaches a state of absolute individuality and divinity. Instead of becoming one with God, here the adept becomes God. This is a state of total trance and absolute presence within oneself. The adept has the universe and all the potential within, and from this can create a new universe. To reach this stage, the dark adept needs to open a form of black chakra beyond the Sahasrara, or the crown chakra, I'm guessing Sahasrara. These Indian terms, they always get me. It is called Sunya or Shunya and corresponds to Thamion, the black hole. This level is described in Agora 2 Kundalini by Robert Svoboda. And in this book, The Tree of the Kopath, they talk about the 3 hidden black chakras. So if you want to learn more about that, as I've already recommended, you go and grab that book. Get you a copy. In the Shunya state, all names and forms become extinct, and all you are aware of is your own individuality. Otherwise, only the void remains. Everything in the universe is contained in the Shunya state in unmanifested form. You can no longer perceive it. Although people call the Shunya state the void, it is not empty, it is full, as we've said before with the Ein. The possibility of opening the black chakra arises after the magician has accomplished a complete awakening of the Ajna, Ajna chakra, if you want to look that up, in the third eye. The Ajna chakra is a lower form of Sunya within the body. Sunya is the third eye, the eye of Lucifer or Shiva, in a higher form, reserved for the most advanced adepts on the left-hand path. With the activation of the Ajna chakra, the adept faces a final decision to become one with God in the Samsara and thus be disintegrated. I think, that's Sahasra. Samsara is the wheel of, that's the wheel of the serpent eating its own tail. To become one with God and thus be disintegrated, or to attempt the great and very difficult step through Sunya to become a god. Neither Sahasrara nor Sunya are actually chakras in the general meaning of the word. Man has 6 main chakras, from the base chakra to the Ajna chakra in the head. The 3 lower chakras are dominant in persons who are focused on earthly matters and their base instincts. In spiritual persons, the 3 higher chakras are the dominant ones. Adepts of the right-hand path are predominantly trying to raise their energies from the lower levels to the higher, in a process that leads to enlightenment at the Ajna chakra, where the adept realizes the illusory nature of the self and the universe. The final goal of the right-hand path is to take the great step out to samsara to reach samadhi and an extinction of the self. You'll see this a lot of the times, interestingly, in magical traditions. I think even the Golden Dawn, the idea is to build up like this super ego, which is actually based in higher consciousness. It's based in your higher self. But then at the end of the day, you even have to throw that away and just become one and just totally give it up. So it does seem kind of silly in a way. I mean, as we know, there's great cycles of existence. Right now we're in the Kali Yuga, which is part of an even bigger cycle, and these cycles are long. We talked about this in the Madame Blavatsky videos. They're like, so many billion years. It's like a long, long amount of time. Millions and billions of years. Like multiple billion years. I mean, it's an insane number. And then it just does these cycles over and over again. Very long cycles. So the circle is an important symbol, to understand on all these deep levels. The final goal of the right-hand path is to take the great step out to Sahasrara and to reach Samadhi and the extinction of self. The adept of the left-hand path can take a step back into himself at the Ajna chakra and find 3 hidden chakras that are concealed inside the head. The 3 secret chakras are Golata, Lalata, and Lalena. They can only be experienced when the Kundalini is completely awakened and has made the Ajna chakra flame with force. Only when the Ajna chakra burns with the Kundalini force can the adept find the 3 secret and hidden chakras in the back of the head. According to the Vamachara, these 3 chakras can only be opened through the blessing of Kali. The secret chakras can make the adept a god while in his own body. Thus, there are 3 times 3 chakras, 3 of which are secret and are only opened by very advanced adepts on the left-hand path. The next step is to reach the Samsara chakra. No idea how to say that. But through the awakening of the Ajna chakra and the secret chakras, the adept can take a step beyond this in the 10th level and through Sunya to an 11th level to create new worlds beyond Sunya. On the other side of the black hole, the adept will also find the infinite light that has previously been experienced as darkness. Instead of God's unity, the dark path offers a dynamic duality as the highest principle. Unity is equivalent with extinction, while the outermost duality gives life and energy. Very, very interesting. Because stagnation is death. Stagnation can be peace. It can be tranquility. And that's kind of what it is when you give into, I guess, like the mercy energy of the tree of life. You have severity and mercy. Everything molds and flows into one. And while it may be good to be in that state for a while, you know, obviously it's part of the tree of life, so it's important. It feels good to come back or return to home or return to source, but ultimately we are meant to evolve even beyond this, you know, so we need to take all this into consideration. It's like the adult finally leaving the parents, you know, kind of deal. So when we're ready, when our souls are ready, and when we're ready to make that evolutionary jump, don't rush this stuff, though. As we've said before, I've warned in prior videos, do not get into, especially the Kapathic initiations and path working and working with the Tree of Death until you're pretty high level and you know what you're doing and you've done research and you know what you're getting yourself into. I don't want to be responsible for anybody, you know, prematurely getting into such things. Instead of God's unity, the dark path offers a dynamic duality as the highest principle. Unity is equivalent with extinction, while the outermost duality gives life and energy. When the magician reaches Thaumael, he finds himself at the absolute core. Thaumael is the eye of the dragon and the throne of Lucifer. The magician can stay here forever, but can also make the ultimate choice. All religious, philosophical, and metaphysical goals can be reached from this level. The magician can enter nirvana, become one with the darkness, or the womb of Kali, but it is also possible for the magician to invert Thaumael and become one with God and the bright side. The magician can re-enter the lower levels or take the final step out of this universe. So it almost reminds me of a video game, like where you can go into a whole new world, start a new game, or you can play the game over again, but it's going to be like a little bit harder the next time around. And you're going to probably help more souls ascend and evolve, you know, if you decide to stay. Okay. And as we all know, there's people we love in our lives, you know, we want to stay with them as much as we possibly can because we cherish what they are, but all things evolve, all things change. That's something I've tried to, you know, become uncomfortable with. There's been a lot of loss around lately, so it makes one question things sometimes, but that's why we study these cosmic principles and the way all of this stuff works. We want to learn more. We want to bring some peace of mind to ourselves that there is more to it than just, you know, there's obviously more to this than just random acts of creation, as the pure scientists would say. It's there's an intelligence, there's something so beyond all of this that is within this. It's a part of this, but yet it's so far beyond as well. It's just so deep, it's so primal. It's really been this spark or this igniting force, this urge, this desire to exist. And we've talked about that a little bit in prior videos. I'm trying to think of what book I was reading that from, where this, I think it was the Madame Blavatsky stuff. There's this flame, there's this fire that just cannot be, this ignition, and it comes from a very old place, and it's this force, this driving force that drives the whole universe, you know, to have a reason and a purpose. You know, the reality tends to become more objective over time because we all come from primordial darkness, chaos. Then it becomes more light, more objective, but if we don't integrate the darkness, the objective reality that's created will be false. It'll be superficial, it'll be shallow, essentially, and that's kind of what's happened, and that's why we're having to go back, rediscover ourselves, and then, you know, we can attempt to ascend the tree and then figure out where we want to make our moves from there. So hopefully this video has been giving you some kind of insights into the mechanics of the universe, how the different paths work. So I do have a couple of notes I do want to read from this in regards to the Ayin. I don't think they're super long notes. I just have to find where it's at on this page. On the tree of the Sephiroth, the 7 lower realms correspond to the 7 days during which God created the world. While the highest triad stands for ideas and divine consciousness, the 7 realms below correspond to different levels of realization of ideas. So that's the normal tree of life. The Qliphoth successfully undo creation, making it possible for the initiate to create the world anew on the empty canvas of the void. The purpose of the 7 lower Qliphoth is to prepare the initiate for the step in the ordeal of Gog-Shibla as the completion of this process. And this sphere would be the equivalent to... Oh, the baby's crying, I hear him. Would be the equivalent to... Why am I not? Be the equivalent to... Is this Mercy? Yes, Hesed, Mercy, I'm sorry. It was at the top of the page, Gog-Shibla. Alrighty, I'm gonna have to go grab the baby real quick. I will return. Oh, alrighty. I got me a sleeping baby here. Say hi. Say hello, Raziel. Say hi, baby. Can you sit here with Daddy? We're gonna finish up this video real quick. Alright. So... I think that was all I wanted to read from that page, 130. Yep, and then on page 141, oh, I'm sorry, page 144. Page 144. Here we go. The world of shells is a vast, self-intersecting universe without any order whatsoever. It lies deep within the transcultural collective unconscious, the sediment left when the consciousness of Ayin gained awareness of itself. So there we go, there's the reference to the Ayin. Leaving its own shadow dwelling behind its every action. It would be redundant to explain how the obscure substance of the thoughtless light remained as a primary and primeval force in the universe and managed to infiltrate every stratum of creation, as it has already been written before. What I want to accomplish is not to guide the reader through theoretical mind twisters into the abysmal nature of the Qliphoth, but to take them deeper into the formless ocean that lies behind consciousness, and give them a partial map of a previously uncharted territory by letting them travel to it by themselves. So I thought that was really cool insight as well. Oh yeah, and I also wrote a note here, take into account, it's interesting, we talk about black and white all the time, darkness and light. So it's good to take into consideration, remember that white is the absence of all color, and black is the presence of all colors. So there's kind of a symbolic significance to that. Whereas the white or the light can also be sometimes feel empty, or it's just like a blank slate. Darkness is full. It's full of everything. It contains everything in it. And the black or the darkness is light that we just cannot yet perceive. So let's see, we're 40 minutes into this video. I'll go ahead and read a section of the Ein, I think, as long as he behaves. He looks like he's doing okay. We'll read the little section in here about Ein. And then I was talking about this book earlier, A Garden of Pomegranates by Israel Regardie. 0. Ein. The universe as the sum total of all things and living creatures is conceived as having its primeval origin in infinite space, Ein, nothing, or Parabrahman, the causeless cause of all manifestation. Let's see what that word means, or what the footnote is for that. A Sanskrit term meaning beyond Brahma, the supreme and the absolute principle, which is impersonal and nameless. In the Veda, it is referred to as that, quote, that. So this is a quote from the Zohar. Before having created any shape in the world, before having produced any form, he was alone, without form, resembling nothing. Who could comprehend him as he then was before creation, since he had no form? The Ein is not a being, it is no thing. And they also put a footnote for that. Ein, nothing, along with Ein Sof, which is the limitless, and Ein Sof, or the limitless light, comprise the three negative veils of existence. These veils are planes of existence that lie outside of all human realms of experience and understanding, as we were kind of talking about before. Ein is the outermost veil. The Ein Sof is what we, in our limited understanding, refer to as God, which is completely beyond our comprehension. The Ein is not a being, it is no thing. That which is incomprehensible, unknown, and unknowable does not exist, at least to be more accurate insofar as our own consciousness is concerned. Blavatsky defines this primal reality as an omnipresent, eternal, and boundless principle on which all speculation is utterly impossible, since it so transcends the power of human conception and thought that it would only be dwarfed by any similitude. That which is known and named is known and named, not from a knowledge of its substance, but from its limitations. So the Ein has no limitations. It cannot be defined. It can't be put into a box of any kind. In itself, it is unknowable, unthinkable, and unspeakable. Rabbi Azariel ben Menahem, born 1160 AD, a disciple already mentioned of Isaac the Blind, states that the Ein can neither be comprehended by the intellect nor described in words, for there is no letter or word to grasp it. In another very important system, this idea is very picturesquely and graphically represented as the goddess Nuit. For those of you who study Thelema, you ought to know who Nuit is. It's Crowley's rendition of the name of the Egyptian sky goddess, Nut, N-U-T, Coptic, Nuet, created specifically to fit his specific system of gematria. She's kind of like the primordial womb, from what I understand. She's the feminine aspect of the divine. And then Hadid is the masculine, the dot in the center of the circle. So, in another very important system, this idea is very picturesquely and graphically represented as the goddess Nuit, which is the canopy of the sky, the queen of absolute space and the naked brilliance of the night sky blue, the woman jetting forth the milk of the stars, cosmic dust from her paps. The symbology kind of reminds me of Isis as well. It is the absolute or the unknowable of the agnosticism of Herbert Spencer, the thrice great darkness of the Egyptian sacerdotal caste, and the Chinese Tao, which resembleth the emptiness of space and which hath no father. It is beyond all other conceptions higher than the highest. In one of the meditations of Chuang Tzu, we find that Tao cannot be existent. If it were existent, it could not be non-existent. Tao is something beyond material existences. Let's see what's in the footnotes for those things right there. 9 and 10. Of course, the Tao is Chinese for the way, absolute or nominal reality. And Chuang-Tzu was an important early interpreter of Chinese Taoism. His work, Chuang-Tzu, is considered one of the essential texts of Taoism. Chuang-Tzu's teachings had a great influence on the development of Chinese Buddhism, as well as Chinese poetry and landscape painting. So that's interesting. In one of the meditations of Chuang-Tzu, we find that Tao cannot be. Okay, we already read that. If it were existent, it could not be non-existent. Tao is something beyond material existences. It cannot be conveyed either by words or by silence. In that state, which is neither speech nor silence, its transcendental nature may be apprehended. To this Kabbalistic conception or principle of zero would be allocated Baruch Spinoza's definition of God or substance, that which requires for its conception the conception of no other thing. Another of the many symbols used by the Hindus to represent this zero was that of the serpent Ananta, which enclosed the universe, its tail being swallowed in its mouth, representing the reentrant nature of infinity. Nice bird, buddy. You got any more? But, and then Ananta, that sounds like just the Ouroboros, the serpent eating its own tail, which we talked about a little bit earlier. We've talked about that many times before. 11. So the thousand-headed serpent Ananta, endless, quote, endless, that issued from Balarama's mouth, the god Vishnu's attendant upon whom he rests during the night of Brahman on the ocean of milk. In ancient Egypt and Greece, the symbol of Ouroboros, there we go, the serpent with its tail in its mouth expressed the unity of all things, both material and spiritual, which continuously change form in cycles of destruction and recreation. But of course, the whole idea is to get beyond the wheel of samsara, or break the wheel of samsara. Damien Eccles talks about that a lot as well. So I think we covered a lot of good material in this video, and I will probably only need to do one more video on the Ayin, I'm guessing, and then after that we can move on to the Ein Sof, or we can continue to talk about Klapoth, or I'll get into something else. So we still have a lot of information to cover on this channel, and we're just getting started. Ah, buddy. You want to say hi? Say hi. There's a smile. Got a little bumper, something on his head last night. Did you get like some rug burn or something, buddy? You're going to be on YouTube. This is for YouTube. All right, everyone. I'm going to hop off of here. It's always a pleasure. I love sharing this information, creating a community of like-minded people. Thank you so much for watching my material. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for being patient with me as I'm getting this information out. I'm not doing as many videos as I was, but trying to make the most of the ones that I am putting forth. So trying to give you guys good information. Love you all. I'm glad to have you as a part of this team. So peace and blessings, everyone. Thank you so much. And until next time, I will see you soon. Say bye. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Yeah. Bye-bye.